Hey gang, so spooky season is well and truly upon us, and with that in mind I thought it might be fun to do some Halloween crafts, so let's get crafting. Actually not spooky season at all. We are pretending it's Halloween. I'm currently wearing shorts because it is the middle of a heat wave in August, but let's just pretend it's spooky season. Shh. So what are we going to craft? Last year I made a witch, ta-da! But this year I think we're gonna go with ghosts. I think ghosts are quite cute. Obviously they are a little bit scary, but as you can see I am a ghost fan and a Halloween fan, until obviously it's night time and then I'm scared of everything living or otherwise. So in the sort of realm of fictional ghosts, there are two different strands of ghosts that we can sort of go with. There's the sort of very dark demon type scary ghost. They're very spooky. They're the sort of thing that are in the kind of jump scare films. Everything's covered in like dry ice and scary smoke. You also do get sort of in this realm like this sort of Victorian-esque type of ghost, which is just sort of a sort of transparency kind of spooky figure that looks quite realistic. So there's that. Then we have the cute type of ghost, the more sort of cartoony style of ghost. Basically it just looks like a hanging sheet is the kind of vibe we get with this type of ghost. You can get the kind of ones that look almost like marshmallowy. There's the one that just looks like a hanging sheet. There's a figure with a sheet over the top. Some of them can get a bit towards the more demon side of things, but on the whole they do tend to stick with the more cutesy vibe. And in life I do tend to find that if there's an option of cute or not cute, I'm going with cute, hence my lovely husband. So I think we're going to stick with the cute vibe. I also think this is going to be a lot easier to achieve. Doing something down the sort of demonic side is going to be quite difficult. I'm going to have to use skills that quite frankly I do not have, and I think doing something cute is going to be more simplistic, so we're going to stick with that option. I still wasn't sure exactly what to do and looked at some more pictures, and I saw these pictures of dogs. Oh my gosh, I'm not even a dog person and I was just like so excited about these, and I was like, I don't really want to have to try and handcraft a dog to then put this on top of, and I don't have a dog at my disposal to use. So I thought, what about cats? I'm already dressed as a cat. This is actually like a complete fluke. I didn't plan this. I just happened to have some cat ears, you know, just in case I need to dress up in my everyday life. So I think what we're going to try and make is some very tiny ghost cats. How are we going to make these tiny ghost cats, you may ask? Well, today we are bringing the crafting station downstairs and I'm going to try and make some tiny ghost cats from some clay. So let's get prepared. So we've got a few different things to play with here. First of all, I've got a mat that I can clean so I'm not sticking clay to the table. I have got some modelling clay. This is air dry clay. I have used air dry clay in the past, but I've mainly used foam clay, and quite frankly I have no desire to do any more things with foam clay. I think I used this at school. I seem to remember making some sort of a dinosaur when I was about 5 out of this. I don't think it's still around. I don't think it's that sturdy, but I think for the needs I have for it, it'll probably be fine. Then I've got some clay tools here, lots of like fun random things. There's all manner of stuff in here just for like shaping clay. I don't know what we're going to use, but we'll see what happens as we go. And then I've got some things to mould the ghost with, but I think we'll first just start trying to make a ghost shape. So I started by just rolling out the clay with not a rolling pin, just a clay tool because I didn't have a tiny rolling pin to hand. And then I just cut out a rough circular shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I did just tidy up those edges because they did look a little bit ratty. Then I've just got an old egg carton and I just sort of folded up the clay to fit in that little egg carton. I did line it with some greaseproof paper just so it didn't stick to the cardboard, and then I just left that to dry. Plan number 2, because it's always good to have a backup plan. Things rarely go to plan in life, do they? So backup plan at the ready. I am using these Airflow Practice golf balls, which I impulse purchased while at a sports store because that's the type of person I am. I don't even play golf. I just thought they looked fun. I was like, well, there's surely some use for these in my life. And today's the day. So I'm going to use these to try and mould the clay over, but obviously as it stands, like, this is a bad example because there's like holes in this table that it's staying in. I think it's just gonna like roll around in any other orifice. I did manage to secure the ball with some tin foil, which seemed to work, and hopefully that will also provide some sort of non-stick component here. Ooh, ooh, I like that. I say I like that. It's a ball of tin foil over a ball of something else. I think that could work. So I think I'm just gonna like do another ball of this clay. Now, if we look at this one, it's like really small. And this looks quite a lot bigger than the holes in the egg carton. So I think I'm going to roll out a bigger ball of clay, because I think in order to get it to go over this, I'm going to end up needing to like roll it really thin or something if I use such a small ball. And I think if I roll it too thin, it's going to become too fragile. So I think we're going to roll out a bit more this time and see how we go. So there we have a massive piece of clay, and I'm going to try and cut a circle out as we've done previously. Ta-da! I did consider cutting out the eyes, but I think they might look a bit like the sort of dark recesses in the demon eyes, and I don't really want that vibe. So I think we're just going to keep it as is for the time being, and we can paint those eyes on at a later date. And then, oh, this looks much better. Then we're going to just like put that over. As I'm going, I'm just kind of like pleating it slightly. And I think we have something that looks ghost adjacent there. So now we just have to do the ears. I was thinking about just doing two little triangles. I don't know if they might be too like thin to stand up. So I think maybe if I roll the clay quite thick, so they almost look like chunks from a Toblerone bar. Or at least, you know, a Toblerone bar until they shrunk them. Grrr. Why do people keep shrinking our snacks, guys? Let's talk about the real problems in this world. Snack shrinking. Ugh. Saying that, I am a really big fan of the tiny snacks you get at Halloween. You know, little fun size bars. Oh, love them. Not for trick-or-treaters, mind. I just stay hiding indoors, turn off the lights and have my tiny snacks in peace. Anyone else? So we've got quite a thick piece of clay there, and then I'm just going to try and make some little triangles. Hopefully triangles that are the same size as each other. I mean, they look quite cute at the moment. I don't know how I stick these on. Do I have a tool for that? I don't think this is the tool. I think it's for making holes and things, but I'll give this a go. And there we have our tiny little ghost cat, and at the moment I'm really happy. I think that looks super cute. I actually, for my needs, do need two of these, so I'm just going to make one more and then leave them to dry overnight, and we'll see what they look like in the morning. We have got the little dried ghost cats, and they are looking super cute. I'm really happy with how they've dried. I was worried they might crack or something. I've not used this clay before, but they seem to be holding up quite well. We've also got these little baby ghosts, which I think might be a little too small. I feel like it might have been better to use like a narrower mould. I don't really know what I'd have used, but kind of so they weren't sort of like such wide little mounds. But like, I still think they look ghost-like, so we're still gonna like persevere and see what we can do with those. What I'm going to do now is just sand down these edges, because obviously they do look a bit like scraggly. I mean, obviously it doesn't need to be like super neat and like smooth along the bottom or anything, but just maybe just make it look a little bit more neat and tidy. So I'm just going to use some sandpaper for that. As ever, I've got my safety equipment somewhere. I'm going to use a mask and some goggles for that. I don't know whether you actually need to use that much precaution, but my lungs are very important to me, so I will be looking after them. So I'm just going to sand those down now, and we'll see what we've got to work with. And I think this one looks a little bit nicer now. So if we compare it to like, this is the one that isn't sanded. This like looks a little bit of a mess on the bottom. You can see like the cut lines and stuff. And this one is the one I have sanded, and I think it just looks a little bit smoother around the bottom. It still doesn't look perfect, but I think it's fine for my requirements. So I'm just going to obviously go and sand the rest of them. I can't get painting yet. I've been told that because this is air dry clay, if you don't put some sort of sealant layer on, the paint will cause problems, and it could like make it go all kind of watery and slushy again and basically turn back into mouldable clay. I'm not sure if that's correct, but that is what Google is telling me. I was told to use Mod Podge, or if I can't find Mod Podge, I was told to use 2 parts PVA and 1 part water. So I'm going to go and mix that up and then just put a layer on. So in this pot I've got 2 parts clear PVA and 1 part water, just in a very glamorous yogurt pot. I'm only putting glue on the top part of the ghost to start with, and not fully to the bottom of the ghost, so it's touching cardboard, because I don't want the ghost to stick to the cardboard. Obviously this does mean it's going to be like a couple of days of waiting for glue to dry, but hopefully it will mean I don't have a ghost stuck to a bunch of cardboard and a giant mess to clean up. So I had some issues with the first sort of layer of, I don't want to call them this varnish that went on. It seems to have gone slightly yellow in parts. I don't know whether you can really see that on the camera, but it's gone quite yellow. You can't see a sheen, so there's obviously something going on there, but I feel like it was too thin and it's not held on to the edges. I think it was quite a thin paint anyway, and then when I've watered it down, it just further like caused problems. I also had issues with the glue pooling in the bottom here, so I kept having to move it while it was actually drying. So I feel like when it was upside down, these top bits didn't get any because it just fell down. So we're just going to go in with normal white PVA and see if that works. And what feels like 100 years later, I have finally sealed these up with PVA glue. In hindsight, I probably should have just gone on with the plain PVA to start with, but Google led me astray. If I can't trust Google, who can I trust? Where am I going to get my information from? Anyway, we are finally here and we're ready to paint these ghosts. So how are we going to paint them? Now, there's the obvious answer of white, because that's the colour ghosts normally are, and yes, they do look white as they are, but as I've said previously, I did have some issues with this, like, first coat of PVA going yellow. Full disclosure, I've got a migraine coming on and I genuinely can't tell the colour of these, so I'll just leave it to you to compare. So this is the white of the acrylic I'm going to paint them with, and this is the white from the actual clay, and the white acrylic does look lighter than the ghost, so I think we're going to go over them with this. It will also level out any yellowness from that glue. But what are we going to do in terms of actually facial features? So I've made some little drawings of some little ghosts. Any excuse to avoid my actual grown-up responsibilities and do some drawing is just excellent in my book. So here are some tiny little ghosts. So I've drawn a few different things here. Obviously you've just got like your traditional ghost just with like the little eyes, and then I experimented with like the little cat nose, but I thought just with the cat nose on its own it looked a bit like a skull, you know, where they just have like a weird hole for the nose, or almost like a ghoul from Fallout or something. And that, I mean, I guess ghoul is like a Halloween vibe, but it's not really, we're going for the cute vibe here. I did also experiment with the pink cheeks, almost like it's blushing, but then I thought blushing is normally associated with like anxiety, with like worrying about what people think, and that sort of situation. Now, I don't own a cat, but the general vibe I get from cats is that they just could not care less, which is not really in the same realm as like the anxious blushing thing, so it just didn't quite work. Well, I know obviously this is like not reality and it's just like a sort of cartoonified cat ghost, but I don't think that works. And so again I returned to this one, which just didn't quite look right, and then I realised what we were missing, and it was whiskers. And so I experimented with a couple of little cats with whiskers. So we've got this one with little smaller facial features, and we've got this one with the bigger facial features, and I think this one is my favourite. I think it does just say cat. I think the bigger features as well, unlike this one which is a bit more sort of demure, again not really the vibe I'm getting from a cat. So I think this one is a bit more like, bam, I'm a cat. If that's what you're wanting from yours. If you maybe want a more demure one, maybe this would work better for you, but I think this is the one I'm going to go with. So first off, what I'm just going to do is get a base coat of some white acrylic on these, and then we can get going. Now obviously with the glue before, I'd had to sort of like glue the top section and then like wait for that to dry and then flip it over and glue the inside. But for this, we don't need to paint the inside. No one's going to see the inside. Feel free to paint the inside if you want, guys, but I don't think there's any need. But I'm obviously going to have to paint the whole way to the bottom. And from previous experience, paint does tend to work in a similar way to glue, in that if you like stand something on a surface and paint the whole way around it and try and lift it up, it will have sort of adhered itself to whatever surface it is. So I have fashioned some, like, this is not technical at all, guys, it's just like some paper from a box and some duct tape, and so I've made like a little sort of column, and then we can like stick the little ghost on top of that to paint it. Quite impressed at that for brain work on a Sunday morning. So we're going to get these all set up to paint. I also put some cardboard under the ghost so I didn't also paint the table. I just have so much cardboard lying around at my house. I don't know about anyone else, just so many Amazon deliveries just constantly turning up, so there's always cardboard to hand. I just used some basic white acrylic paint here. I did end up doing 2 coats in the end to give a more full coverage effect, but that might have just have been because I was using quite cheap paint. Then came to the exciting bit, actually adding the features to the ghost. I wasn't confident enough to just go like completely freehand with this, so I drew in those facial features that I've previously spoke about with a pencil, and then got a very small brush, the smallest brush I could find, and then used that to very sort of intricately paint on those features just with some black acrylic paint. I just went really slowly while I was doing this because I didn't want to mess up the whole thing. I mean, obviously I could have like wiped the paint off and painted over it, but that would have been yet more time waiting for paint to dry overnight. I don't know about anyone else, but one of my favourite parts of Halloween is the Halloween films. I know me and Mr. Jones normally try and watch 1 or 2 like spooky Halloween films for every weekend in October, so we normally get through quite a lot of them. I do tend to prefer the more like spooky ones or thrillery ones rather than the sort of total gore experiences, but I'm pretty much up for anything really film wise. I would say some of my favourite Halloween horror spooky films would be Midsummer, the Conjuring films, really love those. So happy to see there's another one coming out soon. I also really love the sort of cutesy 90s type Halloween films, the likes of Casper. Let me know what films you're planning to watch this Halloween, or any suggestions you have to add to my Halloween viewing list. And so here is our painted cat, and I think it's looking really cute, but I want these to be little girl cats, and at the moment they just look like just ghost cats. And so I was thinking, how do I achieve that? And I thought, what is the easiest way to convey that this is a girl? And so I decided to go really back to basics and do what I think mums used to do with baby girls, which was like just bung a pink bow on its head and use that as the explanation that it's a girl. So I went ahead and made these little bows. How are we going to make a bow? I was going to use some ribbon, but I don't really have any ribbon that will work, I don't think. But I found these. I think this is like felt, and this is some sort of like sparkly foam, so I'm going to try and make a bow out of these. I used some like, I'm not even sure what this was, it was like some sort of like crafting foam type product. So I cut these little like bow shapes out, basically like just like a bow tie type shape, and then I had this really thin felt which I cut out as a strip and then like wound that around the middle. Super fiddly. I don't know why I decided to do this like the day after I'd cut my nails, so I had absolutely like no ability to like grip or yeah, it was a bit of going on. I got there in the end, and I think they look really cute and effective. I'm really happy with this sparkly effect. Loving that. And now we're ready for the reveal. So happy with how these turned out. I think these look really cute. So let's just have a look at what went right and what went wrong. So we can start with the little ghost cats, and just like, I mean, I'm really happy with how they've turned out. I think they look really cute. So we've certainly achieved the, it's a little girl, it's a ghost cat, like the brief is being fulfilled. I think like looking at that you quite easily know what's going on. I really like how the face has turned out. I think that looks really cute, and this little bow. I think the main con would just be like the going on with the glue. I don't know why I decided to walk down that glue. I mean, mainly because Google told me to, and I was like, yeah, Google wouldn't lead me astray. So I think going forward when I use this air drying clay, I'm just going to use like basic normal PVA and just not water it down, just go straight on and cover it up. I say when I use it again because I've got so much left, and I do not like throwing things out, so I'll definitely be doing some more things with it, but I'm just going to go straight ahead with that PVA going forward. I would also say one of the problems with this, there was just quite a lot of stages I had to wait for, so I had to like form the clay, wait overnight for that to dry, put the PVA on, wait for that to dry, put more PVA on, wait for that to dry, and then with the paint, and then more paint, and so it's taken like, I think it's like a week and a half since I started making this thing. I mean, to be fair, I have had a couple of days off in the interim, but like only doing like a few minutes work each day, but it just took so long. I would say like if you want to do this with children or something, which are probably more impatient than me, if that's possible, I would say maybe just like make the ghost one weekend and then just like do the PVAing yourself, and then the next weekend present the ghost to paint. Maybe something like that might work. Yeah, all in all, I'm just really happy with how this turned out. We also have the little ghost, which I was not quite as happy with. I think they look really cute in their own little way, but I think they look a bit sort of like flat. I think the mould was probably the wrong shape that I used. I think they could probably do, normally ghosts tend to be a bit more like tall and thin, like because they're sort of normally of a human shape, whereas these more like I don't know, some small creature that you've put like a crab. I don't know why they'd be a ghost of a crab, and why it hasn't got pincers, but I think they're cute in their own little way. They're like little chunky ghosts, so I think they're really cute. They just don't quite, there's something about them that's not quite right, but I'm still going to use them because I think they're adorable. So you could use these for a variety of things. You could just use them for some like fun Halloween decoration. I'm going to use this in a little animation, so I built this little set which I'm going to use to like animate them with, but you could also maybe build something like this and make like a little like feature type thing for your window or something. Certainly if you're someone who like gives out treats at Halloween, I know people like to put stuff in the windows to be like, hey, we are the Halloween guys that give out sweets. I'm into Halloween, but I like to keep my sweets myself because I'm an introvert and just, you know, a snack fan, so but do whatever you want. But I'm going to be using these little ghosts in a little Halloween animation which will be dropping in 2 weeks, just in time for Halloween. I do drop videos every second Sunday, so do make sure to subscribe to be kept up to date about all my crafty shenanigans, and I will see you all again really soon. Bye.